Welcome to this episode of Inspirational People. I'm Jason Scott Montoya, and today I get the opportunity of introducing you to a friend, Jeff Fambrough. Jeff, say hello.
How you doing, Jason?
Jeff works with Indeed full-time as an enterprise account manager, a role in business I suspect this crisis has made rather interesting. More importantly, Jeff is a passionate, deliberate, and intentional leader in his family, community, and church. We originally got connected through a mutual friend while Jeff was working for a former employer several years ago, and to our recent surprise, we got reconnected through your leadership at a community church basketball league that our kids participate in through Christ Place Church. So, Jeff, thank you for sharing your life with us today. Tell us about you, your story, and where that brings you into this moment in life.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jason, and great to be part of things today. So I'm a native Georgian. Grew up in Atlanta. I know that's for those who
Metro
live here.
Atlanta or a different part?
In the metro area. So I
Yeah.
grew up just about maybe 20 miles north of the city in a small town called Dunwoody.
Okay.
For those who know Georgia, somebody who actually is from Georgia, especially here in the Atlanta group area, is a bit of an abnormality. So I was born there. Went to high school here locally at Great Atlanta Christian over in Norcross,
Okay.
and then went to college at Furman University,
Okay.
where I studied health and exercise science. Thought it was going to be the next big personal trainer, or work with colleges and their strength and conditioning programs. After about a year and a half of that, and really getting some good knowledge about how to work with people and doing those pieces, I met my now wife, and she we decided, hey, we're going to get married, we're going to do these things. I need to get a real job with insurance and benefits. So I moved in 2008, moved into the recruiting world. I worked for a small group that was doing sales recruiting. So that's kind of where I got into this HR talent acquisition world. We had the recession in 2009, and that's where I moved into actually online advertising for a small subsidiary of Google, I Reach Local, where you and I actually got our first introduction together.
Yeah.
And really kind of found this this world of online advertising and small business and working there. So at that time was there for about 2.5 years, and then went back into the recruiting world and went to work for Randstad, which is one of the largest recruiting companies in the world. Worked in a couple of different divisions, did technology, finance and accounting. Really kind of routed myself out and being able to do kind of working with bigger, larger groups. Helped to open a couple of different offices here in the Southeast. And at that time, one of my former managers had come to Indeed, and Randstad had a really, a plan that you couldn't steal somebody away in a certain amount of time. So we had to wait. We waited that amount of time, and she goes, "I'm going to put your information for my manager. I think it'd be a good fit here." And so went, interviewed, and now I've been with Indeed for about 2.5 years, working in the enterprise space. So I work with Fortune 500 and Fortune 5000 companies. And get to travel all around the country, and working on their talent acquisition and marketing needs.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how did you end up being the leader of a basketball league?
So let's go back into the different things there. So Christ Place Church, where been there for about 1.5 years. 4 years ago, I mentioned that I've been married. I've got 2 kids, Isaac, who is 10, and then my daughter Hannah, who is 9. And so 4 years ago, we got involved in church basketball. And so, and ended up, well, at that time, the league was called Blackshear Place Baptist. And so we got involved with the then director. And as we started to, decide on, are we going to, at that time, we're kind of looking at changing churches. And so this was one of the connection points. So started talking to them 2 years ago. We got a little bit more involved. Actually, 3 years ago, I coached and got a little bit more involved. 2 years ago, Julie, actually, my wife, got involved in it as an assistant director. And then last year, the the leader said, hey, look, you've been part of our different groups on campus. You're now, going here. We want you to lead it.
Yeah.
So I was all excited, and I kind of knew what I was getting into, but it was definitely, getting thrown into the deep end, working with that many individuals.
Yeah, definitely. And parents among among them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. Well, as we kind of look at the situation we're in, the last few months have completely turned our world upside down. Our work, we're facing a health crisis, an economic crisis, and how should we be responding to this? How should we be looking at it? How do we navigate it? What are your general thoughts about the place we find ourselves in?
No, I think it's a good question, Jason, and I'm by no means am I a medical professional, and I know a lot of as much as I read and learn and talk to individuals and partners that I have from a health crisis standpoint. I've made sure, wash your hands, wipe down things you bring to the house. And for most part, I mean, our family's been very, very thankful to be healthy in that. From an economic standpoint, so I mentioned I work with Fortune 500 businesses. I have essential businesses that in the transportation, packing, shipping realm, and I've got retail side businesses. And as we know, kind of you can't walk into anywhere, so a lot of those retail side have had to slow down or completely stop. And kind of wait it out a little bit on the other side of that, on the essential side of the businesses I've had. Continue to work with them in somewhat of their new normal. What are they seeing? How many people they still need people to come to work? They still need things to get out, as we've seen the e-commerce space really explode because everybody's at home. You can't go get certain things, so we have to pack and ship everything. So it's been a kind of tale of two sides. Is you got these essential businesses that are either situation normal, continuing to move forward, and you've got these other side that's they have to create almost a new normal, and where are they going to go over the next couple of months?
And so how important is it for them to adapt? I mean business is always about adapting and facing crises, so it's not unusual in that sense. It's just that more of us are facing it at the same time.
It's I think it is as you mentioned, adaptation. How do we adapt? How did we adapt back in 2009 to that recession and coming into what we've seen over the last 10 years of just growth along the way. I think for the companies that, especially on the retail side, for them, it's continuing to show customers that one, it's safe to come inside. It's we're doing the things from a social distancing standpoint. The retail companies that I've seen, they've got signs on the floor reminding about social distancing. They've put up plexiglass, to keep people safe. Kind of, not even it's not an illusion, because I think it really does help people to stay safe. And here in Georgia, we were one of the first to open up. But it's showing that, it's showing people that we are willing to change to make sure that you feel comfortable. And as more people come out of their house and go back into restaurants, go back into different retail settings, they're gonna see, okay, this is okay. For those companies that don't want to adapt, I think one, they're gonna be forced to. But even from a work at home standpoint, for me, I've always had the luxury of working at home. It's something that I've always enjoyed. Companies are now realizing that we don't have to have everybody come into the office.
Some of these things, it's like, why weren't we doing this already?
Right, less traffic, less less just commuter, and you're getting happier employees and more productive employees. So I think that's really from an adaptation standpoint. You're seeing different companies figure out different ways to do business.
So I guess on that note, when I like to talk about and explore the idea of living better and working smarter. So what does that mean to you? What does it mean to you to live better, and what does it mean for you to work smarter, and how do you go about that?
So from a live better standpoint, maybe one day I'll be able to get back, back to the gym. But just as in, how can I interact more with my kids? I've been able to interact more with my kids over the last 2 months than I have, really, when I was at Ronstadt, I was commuting 30 miles, each way, 2.5 hours in the car. So I'd see the kids. I really wouldn't see the kids until nighttime, and then I'd see them on the weekends. With working at Indeed, being able to work from home, I've seen more of them. But now, helping them with school, helping them, so from a living standpoint, there. I think the other piece is, each morning, I wake up and start with a quiet time. I start with, just a time that I can get and read, reading my Bible and kind of being part of the community that I've created there.
Yeah.
And so from a spiritual wellness there.
And what does that give you by starting your day that way off?
It sets the tone for the day. First of all, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, and so I would say it helps me to just 100% go into how I should start my day and learn each and every day. That start with Him, and then everything else will work out. And so it's that's where I felt
so,
kind of that doing that.
Yeah. So let me ask this. So really what you're talking about is priority of what's most important and placing what's most important first and subsequently. So someone who is like in this situation and their priorities are just all out of whack, would you have any advice for them on how to get to where you are?
I'd say from a priority standpoint, first of all, write it down. It's if your priorities are out of whack, you feel kind of discombobulated and herky jerky. First of all, write down what is it that day that I need to get done. Even before I started doing my morning quiet times, I'd have a little bit of a journal of here's the things I need to do today, and what do I if I don't get everything done, how do I move that into tomorrow? So I'd say for that. The other thing, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, then I'd really I'd love to talk to you and to say why is that? Why not? And what for some, what's holding you back? Because that's where, for me, and making sure that I prioritize having that as my priority first. Things end up working out the right way.
So I can see people, obviously in different places, but two categories from what you just said in terms of their beliefs and relationship with God. Some are going to say, man, this is a really bad season. It's terrible. How could there be a God? And others might say, maybe there is a God and I should figure out who that is and how do I get to know him. What would you say anything to either of those two groups?
Right. Well, it's kind of the existential question of, is there a higher power? I say for the group that's saying, why would God allow bad things to happen? If, as a believer, I know that we live in a fallen world. It's, since Genesis 3, we've lived in a fallen world, and that's part of it. There are bad things that are going to happen to good and bad people. I'd say, in my own life, I've lost a child. I've lost my brother. My brother died of a heart attack at 31 last year.
Wow.
I've seen my dad, from a physical, he's gone through, 12 different surgeries on his legs, just, from knees and other things. So taking this man who was, bright and vibrant and running around, to, now he walks with a cane. So, so seeing those things in my own life, if I didn't have my relationship, with Jesus, that it would be very hard for me to be able to get through, not even get through those, but just have that be part of my testimony. So for those who say, well, there can't be God, there's bad things happening, I'd say, let's dig into that a little bit and talk through it. For those who are saying, oh, okay, well, and having even further going, maybe I should look into this more. that's the kind of the whole part of coming to a relationship
Yeah.
with Jesus is you have ask the questions and don't be afraid to ask the questions.
Yeah. So if that is someone, what would you say is a good first step for them?
I think a good first step for you is open to the book of John
Hmm.
and read through the book of John,
Yeah.
and see the things that Jesus went through, to just kind of get some more, kind of if that's where should I start,
Yeah.
from the other pieces, find somebody who is a believer and start asking questions. What do
Yeah.
you do? How, the the biggest thing about having a relationship with Christ is, it's yours.
Hmm.
Your relationship is not my relationship.
Yeah.
My relationship is not somebody else. So
We can't outsource that one, is what you're saying?
right. Yeah, we cannot outsource that. It's not. There's not a formula about hey. Now the core
Yeah.
concept is, I believe that Jesus is my Lord and Savior, that he died for my sins and rose again. So I believe in a risen Savior. That's the core concept. But how we all came about it, I grew up with two Christian parents. I went to church, and
Yeah.
I decided that at a very young age. I've got a friend. It took him till his 30s,
Hmm.
to make that
Yeah.
realization, and so, and even some, it's been in the
Yeah.
later than that. So, there's not one way,
Yeah.
except for the fact that you have to believe that Christ is your Savior.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of on that note, the idea of mentoring others, leading others, that's a big part of just life. In this situation, I think leadership is even more important. And what would you say to that concept of discipling, of mentoring, of leading, whether
Mm.
it's our work or family or community?
I'd say that is, if I'm actually with my group right now. We're reading through First Timothy,
Yeah.
and it talks about, in chapter 2, about the fact that as men we are called to lead. We are
Hmm.
called to lead in our lives. We're called to lead in our families. We're called to lead
Hmm.
lead in the church. We're called to lead in our communities,
Yeah.
through action, through prayer, through all these different attributes. Those are the things that we're called to do.
Hmm.
So from a discipleship and mentor standpoint, at Indeed, I've mentored people. I have kind of walked them through how to work at Indeed,
Yeah.
and then from a church aspect, I've been part of discipleship groups, and so I would say at no point in the faith are we supposed to do this by ourselves.
Yeah.
I know that there's that quote unquote lone wolf mentality, and it's completely false.
Yeah. Is that a
And
uniquely American thing or is that a human thing?
I think it's more of a human thing, because
Yeah.
you see it in, I work with some of our partners in Europe and around. From an American standpoint, we're always told, put yourself up by your bootstraps, and
Yeah.
and kind of that good old American spirit. So maybe it's a little bit more built here.
Exaggerated. Yeah.
But I think from just men in general standpoint, whether you're in India or you're in
Hmm.
Canada or whether you're here in America, men see that if I have to ask for help, there's a weakness there.
Hmm.
I would say that's completely false, as well as Christ actually working through my weaknesses has helped me to be stronger.
Hmm.
Just like with, we're in the Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, and you see just all of the things that he does to just be that much better and
Yeah.
grow. Well, there's points where he's in a gym, he's taking free throw shots. It's him and nobody else, and he's just doing that for hours.
Yeah.
So he's working on little weaknesses and little
Mm.
things that he has to do to build himself up. So yes, he can make those amazing,
Yeah.
amazing shots.
So on
Those
that
are the
note, I
things that,
mean,
yeah.
well, you mentioned just the iteration idea, and I think sometimes people can think that their life they have these weaknesses or they have these pitfalls or they have these struggles, and they sort of want these large sweeping changes. So what are your thoughts on sort of little iterations versus sort of monumental changes, and how that works and which is more effective?
Sure. So I'll kind of go back to where I am with Indeed.
Yeah.
It took me 10 years to get here.
Hmm.
I think the phrase that I've heard recently is, for every overnight success, there's 10 years
to get
of
there.
to get there. Um, it's doing the minutia, doing the small things, and that's where I'm 36, so I'm kind of on the tail end of that millennial stage. You have Gen Z coming in who
Yeah.
they go, well, I went to college, I've been working here for 2 months, I should be president.
Hmm.
There's there's the there's things you got to do
Yeah.
hey, look, if you're amazing and you do, you kind of pay your dues, there are opportunities out there for you.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
from
it's part of
yeah
it. I guess part of what I'm hearing from you is there's a difference between what you know and the maturity that you have and how you can handle and leverage what you know. Is that part of what I'm hearing from you?
I think absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
As you grow and you do things, I mean, I've got there's a VP in our organization who's worked with Google and Twitter and all
Mm.
these gigantic corporations. Very smart individual, and I've been on calls with him, and he will, you'll present something and he'll just ask very simple question on, well, what do you think about this? And
Yeah.
it's just another way to look at it, and I can go and realize I
Mm.
don't know everything. I need to be able to be flexible and grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So I also like to kind of just talk a little bit about stories. Narratives shape how we see the world. We love to consume stories, whether they're fiction or nonfiction. What's a story, parable, fable, experience that's shaped you, and how can they help us through the season of life that we're in and different parts of our life?
Absolutely. I love reading military history.
Mm.
I
Any
love
particular time zone or time frame, like World War II
um,
versus the Civil War versus something else?
it kind of changes. I grew up being kind of a
Yeah.
World War II buff. I love learning the
Yeah.
different pieces, but one of the things I've actually done in this in kind of last couple of months is just kind of branching out,
Yeah.
and learning about Alexander the Great, or
Mm.
learning about kind of going a little bit more of Civil War.
Yeah.
Or even recent times. I mean, we've
Hmm.
been in battle since really 2001, and you know diving into Navy SEALs
Yeah.
and how they do things. There's one. His name is Jocko Willick,
Okay.
and so he's written a book with Leif Babin, who's was part of. They were part of the same unit, called Extreme Ownership, and
Okay.
it's just the story about going back to leadership and organizations and organizational control and how should you do things. Just walking through the Battle of Ramadi and seeing how they did things, and how you can have that ownership between small units, between the
Hmm.
unit and the larger force.
And how does he describe extreme ownership? Like, how would he define that?
Well, I think this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, with individuals, working through that minutia to get to the larger piece.
Mm.
The extreme ownership it comes back to you own your responsibility,
Hmm.
and for it's not okay, the economy's bad,
Mm.
or this company, I mean, I'm at a good point right now where I've got companies that are running. I have people on my team where nobody's, some are going bankrupt.
Hmm.
So how do they compare?
I mean, we could look at that and sort of sit and pity and blame, or to the point of the extreme ownership, I go, I can't control everything, but there are some things I can do today. Is that?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a great way to think about it. Is just having that ability to say, okay, this is what I can't control, this is what I
Hmm.
can't, and then this is what I have to pray about, or this is what I have to, it's kind of left up to we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I guess is there anything to the fact that some of the inspirational stories that we're seeing now, how people are transforming their business, or frontline workers, the things they're doing. I mean, what do you think that does for us as individuals and as a culture to see that?
I think you need some feel good.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a little bit of feel good with 20% unemployment and more, tens of millions of individuals, taking that unemployment, or just the fact of they can't go out to their favorite restaurant, or they can't go out.
Hmm.
They can't. Some people, they can't even go see family members.
Yeah.
To see. I'm constantly on LinkedIn, and so more people are putting these videos on, or you'll see somebody just kind of walk through. You'll see an inspirational video from frontline workers. I mean, we need that.
Yeah.
And if you're just watching the news, the major news networks, it doesn't matter who you're watching. It's all about, okay, doom and gloom. This many people are dying. These people will have it. Well, there are people who are getting well.
Yeah. Yeah.
About, 96, 97% of people who get it are getting well.
Yeah.
So, as a culture, as individuals, I think we need to understand what's going on, but at the same time, really understand that there are some good things that are happening. And I think one of the biggest things is all of the goodwill that's going out,
Hmm.
from people raising money
Yeah.
to individuals giving up part of what they earn,
Hmm.
depending on
The sacrifices that people are
there's,
willing.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If this doesn't happen, maybe those things don't
Hmm.
happen. So
Yeah.
I think it's a unique situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've been through a variety of crises, your own journey.
Mhm.
How did those types of the stories and experiences and inspiration help you through your own journey?
Well, I think it's definitely helped to mold me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. I'm not the man that I am today.
Yeah.
If I don't go through those things, whether it's you know two I'll give one. So my wife and I were married back in March of 2008,
Okay.
and 2 weeks into our marriage, she's in the emergency room,
Mm.
and we find out that she's got some different medical issues, and then 4 months later we find out she's got ovarian cancer.
Mm.
So newlywed,
Like, not,
all
it's not
those
supposed to
different.
happen. What's going on?
Yeah. And so I mean, so it's all of those different things. She's been through 6 surgeries, but through that we have 2 children.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that's helped shape me.
Mm.
From losing my brother last year, I think it's reminding me about how small my family is. I don't come from a very big family,
Mm.
and just being thankful for the times I have. This past Mother's Day, just being able to actually go see mom and
Yeah.
hang out and be there and do those things, and uh, all of those different experiences throughout have definitely helped to mold who I am today.
Yeah.
And I'm not a director of basketball if those things don't happen, or I'm
Mm.
not at Indeed, or even the
Yeah.
relationship that I have with Christ.
Yeah. And I guess for me, I'm very grateful for the crisis that I've been through,
Mhm.
because it feels like it's helped equip me for the current one, and I'm so much better off to be able to respond and take that ownership and lead, when things are uncertain and scary or stressful or anxiety inducing.
No, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, I mean, as a small business owner, I mean, that's something that you've been up and down, and in and out. And my wife actually, she owns a small business as well, and so we've seen those struggles, and so having it help equip us for now, and just go, okay, here,
Mhm.
we're able to push through.
Yeah, and part of it too, I think, and this is maybe a human thing, and maybe America's a little bit more exaggerated, but just this idea of this sort of unrestricted ambition. We're kind of pursuing. It's more, it's more, it's working more, it's accumulating more, it's whatever. And now we're at a point where it's like, we're the reins are being pulled back, in
Sure.
a way. And there's an interesting opportunity to go, what are we going to do with those limitations? And innovation can come out of that, or time to rest and reflect is another opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to say something.
No, I was going to agree with that. I think because coming out, March 9th, we had our championship game,
Yeah.
and I was already in the the thought of, okay, I'm going to be in this, traveling to this, we're going to move on to this sport, and then
all your
everything just
plans
stops.
got stopped.
Everything stops. And so, basically on March 11th and March 15th, and it is allowing for time to calm down and,
I mean,
kind of
are
just do
you
nothing.
grateful that you were able to slow down, or do you
I
miss
am.
the activity?
I mean, there are certain things that I think we miss from being able to. I'm a sports guy and like
Yeah,
to go out
yeah,
and but at the same time, been able to just hang out at home,
yeah, yeah,
and do those things, or not in an airport, or
yeah.
having to just continuing to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting. We still haven't gotten our NBA playoffs yet, so
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
that maybe it'll innovate some new way to present it and the experience that might be better than it was before. So let's talk
Absolutely.
about systems. Whether they're technical or human, we're all a part of and creators of systems, and they direct. They inform how we think, how we act, and a lot of times systems affect us in ways we don't realize that they're affecting us, and that now we're sort of in a situation where a lot of those systems are changing or tweaking or
Mhm.
pausing or shutting down. So what do you think about systems? Do you use them? Are they important? What are your thoughts?
I think having some type of system, some type of way to just organize yourself is it's absolutely necessary. Going back to my morning quiet time, I have a system
Mm,
of kind
yeah.
of how I wake up and get the day started, and then how I go through that to to maybe answer a couple of questions, and just for myself, not only just to read, but a system of putting information, applying what I read to what I'm doing each day. From my work, we use an enterprise CRM, so all
Hmm.
of my information goes into that, and
Yeah.
I can look and see, how should I prioritize my day,
Hmm.
and then from just a kind of a personal aspect, a lot of times, if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't exist. So just having some type of reminder, what is next
Yeah.
there. Just using the things that we have to make sure that you're kind of meeting your daily checkpoints along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that you get resistance to systems when they start to intersect with other people, or do you find the people you interface with embrace that, or is it a hybrid of the two?
I think it's a hybrid of the two, because for some people, I'll go back into, I kind of brought my corporate world into,
Uh-huh.
some of the things when we did basketball, and I think it really kind of we're going, wow, how do you do all these things? Like, this is what I do on a daily basis,
Yeah.
working with
They
companies.
think you're a Superman because of how much you're able to do, but a lot of it's the system. Is that what you were saying?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
and then going back to our previous conversation of, the minutia. Well, I've built that system over 10 years. It's
yeah,
just kind of a daily cadence of what am I supposed to do and how am I supposed to do it. So I've been used to that.
yeah,
And so and sometimes I have to remember, okay, I need to pull back.
yeah,
I don't need that level in certain situations.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. So, to kind of start closing out the conversation here, life can be unfair, it can be challenging, but it can also be joyful and prosperous. And right now, it's a bit of a roller coaster, like you said, depending on even what business you're in and the luck of the dice in the sense that where you're at. So, what would your parting words of wisdom be for people as they just journey through life, but also the situation we're in?
I think it's it's very well said. Is we're in a crazy time. We're in a time that there's a lot of uncertainty, and so I mean, my parting things would be: go to things that are certain, go
Hmm.
to things where there is truth, go to things that you're that you can't control.
Yeah.
You can control how you wake up in the morning. You can
Hmm.
control how you go to bed at night.
Yeah.
You can control you control what what you read, or if you are fortunate to be working, you can kind of control some
Hmm.
of those different cadences.
Hmm.
If you're not working, okay, well, what are the steps that I need to do? Back in 2009, I was laid off.
Yeah. Hmm.
In that, and I spent 45 days. I mean, every single day, just systematically going out and looking for
Hmm.
work. And throughout the years, if I needed, if there was
Yeah.
a situation. okay, what do I need to do? You know, I
So,
also
I
have
mean,
yeah.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, working at Indeed, is there any advice you would give to people that are trying to find work in this season?
I would say, one, come onto the site, sign up, and it's completely free
Yeah.
to add your account and your resume. But at the same time, there's so many different things on there. There's different assessments you can take.
Mm,
There's different places that employers can come and find you, and
mhm.
there's plenty of jobs out there. Just because certain companies are not hiring doesn't mean that other companies
Yeah.
are. And maybe this is the best situation for you, where 6 months ago you would never think that you would ever leave your company. Well,
Mm.
maybe this is the jumping off point for you to find that,
The kick
find
in the
that
pants to
new.
go do that thing that you should have been doing a while ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't like where you were. Well,
Mm,
okay, here you go. Here's how you can go out and find something else. So I'd say for the Indeed uh, aspect is there's great resources, there's great information, and in how individuals can continue finding that next role.
yeah. Yeah. And I guess what about communities and families? What would you say to them?
I'd say for communities and families, first of all, start in the family aspect. If you and lead there, and as a man, my job is to lead my family internally. So whether that's reading your Bible with
Yeah.
them, praying with them, and just kind of trying to interact,
Yeah.
and whether it's a you're trying to help your kid out with one of their
Yeah.
assignments, do those things, and then at the same time, continue to maybe reach out to those neighbors around you that you normally wouldn't.
Mm,
And going back to the isolation piece, this is not a time to isolate. It's time to kind of take a look around. There's not much going on, so see
mm,
what else is out there for you, and where you can excel.
yeah. So anything else you wanna share that we didn't get to or that we missed or that's been on your mind or heart to share?
Well, I think this is a pretty cool platform, and I appreciate you having me on, Jason. And I would say, for individuals around, if there's an uncertainty there, going back to what I talked about before,
Yeah.
do you have a relationship with Christ? And if you do, awesome. Continue,
Yeah.
to pursue those individuals. Churches out there are doing so many online things now. If you don't, hey, love to have a conversation with you and discuss that and see, where it is that, what questions do you have?
Yeah.
Um, and at the end, at the end of the day, and I know that I'm afforded an awesome opportunity to work with Indeed and help people around the world,
Mhm.
to find that next position. And whether we're in a pandemic or we're in
Yeah.
great times, it's kind of we're helping mold the way that people go out and find their next opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's the really cool thing, and why I stay in this talent acquisition HR space is I'm helping somebody possibly get to where they couldn't go on
Mm.
their own.
To help
And
facilitate that change and growth.
absolutely.
Yeah. So how can people connect with you, or if they're interested in working with you, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. You can always find me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
Jeff Fambrough, and I'm the guy that I think I'm wearing the same shirt in that link. So
Um,
absolutely, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's really the only social media platform that I'm on. I don't have Instagram and Twitter and all these other
yeah.
things. I kind of try to keep it nice and small.
Yeah.
Message, and I'd love to talk. And if you're in the Flowery Branch, Beaufort, Georgia area, once we we go have a cup of coffee.
Yeah. It sounds good. Well, thank you so much for sharing and joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason.